Sorry.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome everyone to the City of Greenfield Council Ways and Means Committee. It's taking place this evening, Tuesday, January 18th, 2022. 5:30 p.m. was our starting time via WebEx conferencing. I'd like to apologize at this point due to technical difficulties. I can only get in by phone, so I'd appreciate the support of everybody bearing with me. I want to call the meeting to order at this point. Read the following statement. This meeting is being recorded by the Ways and Means Committee. If any other persons present are doing the same, you must notify the chairperson at this time. Okay, I'm not hearing anybody, so Councillor Bottomley, can we have a roll call, please?
Yes.
Hello?
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
I can, thank you.
Yes, Councillor Forgy.
Here.
Councillor DeSorger.
Here.
Councillor Jarvis.
Here.
Councillor Mayo. Councillor Mayo.
I don't see him.
And I'm Councillor Bottomley, present. We have a quorum.
Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate that. I'd like to entertain a motion, please, for the approval of the minutes, December 15, 2021.
So moved.
So moved,
Disorder.
Jarvis.
Okay, and second by?
Bottomley.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. All in favor of these minutes, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, thank you very much. The minutes are approved. We have a number of items this evening. The first part is to deal with motions. We just had a special meeting, and now we have to move forward and put this all into the proper perspective for our council meeting tomorrow night. May I have someone read order number fiscal year 22-075, please?
Yeah, I'll do it, Chris.
Thank you.
Upon order number FY 22-075, the City Council, upon recommendation of Mayor Wiedengarter, moved that order that the memorandum of understanding MOU between the City of Greenfield and the Greenfield Fire and Police Signal Operators Association be approved. Financial summary. A, FY 22 wage scale increased and readjusted to have only 4 steps. Step A through D, pay range 2578 through 2875. B, COLA, FY 22 0%, FY 23 1%, FY 24 1%. C, increase in shift differential pay. D, addition of education incentive pay, which you already wrote required.
Thank you. May I have a second for that, please?
Second, Disorder.
Thank you. Is there any discussion about this? And you'll have to, you'll just have to jump in and be respectful. Thank you. I appreciate that. Are there any comments, concerns, questions that anybody has in regards to this motion? Okay, everybody understands what they're voting for? All right, if there is no further discussion with this, I'll ask for a roll call vote, if I could, please. Councillor Bottomley, could you assist with this, please?
Yes. So
Thank you.
I'll start with you, Councillor Forgy.
Yes.
Councillor DeSorger.
Yes.
Counselor Jarvis,
Yes.
Counselor Mayo, is not here, and I will vote yes.
Okay,
So the motion carries with a unanimous yes of those present.
thank you very much. I appreciate that. I will tackle the next financial order, if I may. Order number, fiscal year 22-076. The City Council, upon recommendation of Mayor Rita Gardner, ordered that the sum of $221,055 be appropriated from free cash to fund retroactive wage provisions of a new contract agreement with the Greenfield Permanent Firefighters Association, local number 2548, International Association of Firefighters, AFL-CIO CLC Union. Summary, the base pay for fiscal year 22-0. Changes in wage chart give existing firefighters approximately an 8 to 11.2% increase. That is in the wage chart. The chart goes for many years. I'm not going to elaborate. I'll just read the motion. Fiscal year 23, 1% plus add steps. Fiscal year 24, 1% plus addition 1% for EMT levels. Stipend. Temporary stationed stipend, $30 per week for up to 24 months and $35 per week for any duration thereafter. Longevity, 10 years of continuing service, 1% incentive pay increase. 15 years of continuous service, 2% incentive pay increase. And 20 years of continuous service, 3% incentive pay increase. Firefighters holding an EMT certification receive additional longevity benefit. 10 years of continuing service, 1%. 15 years of continuous service, 2%. And 20 years of continuous service, 3%. Our free cash balance, $530,000, $530,198. Majority vote required. There are can I have a second, please?
Second, Jarvis.
Thank you. I was a little premature in jumping the gun here. I will just add the following comments that although the numbers can at first glance look like they're high, they're actually changes to contract wage schedules and other benefits. And this is setting things up for in the future going forward as far as the contract is concerned. Are there any questions anybody might have or concerns or would like to add additional explanation to this before we vote on this motion?
I have a question.
Councilor DeSorbo.
It looks great. My question was the free cash balance of $530,198. That will be after we subtract the $221,055. Is that correct?
I do not know that.
I can answer, if I may.
Hi, Liz. Thank you.
Yay. That is before. So after the vote, the balance will be $309,143.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a quick question, if I may. When we talk about memorandums of understanding, are we actually talking about, in this case, are we actually talking about the full contract being signed? I see the language is changed, and I see where the language is corrected in red. I just want to make sure we are we are voting to fund a fully signed contract. Liz, can you help?
Oh, we cannot pay it until it's fully signed.
Yes,
because the union has that opportunity to not approve it at the very end of a signed contract.
Okay, so you're saying the union has to ratify it as a final step in the process.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate
Welcome.
that.
Chris,
Yes,
this is Roxanne. The
hi,
mayor.
Mayor.
Bob, now that I see Bob on there, I'm going to defer to him. I believe that I should know. I think I signed it, but I've signed a lot of the contracts in the interim. So, Bob, the question, if you didn't hear it, is: has the firefighters' contract been signed by the firefighters?
The memorandum of understanding, what I understand, is that it becomes ratified when city council funds it.
No.
No.
We need the memorandum of understanding to put something forward. But we, as the finance department, cannot pay it until we have the final signed contract. It's another step in the process.
I understand, but I think the concern is whether or not the union has the right to come back after the city council funds it to make
They
changes.
do. They do.
I don't believe that's in the rules and regs of the negotiation session.
That's according
Okay.
to our council. But they do.
All right. So I just want to, I approve of this, but I just want to clarify to make sure that everybody has been at the table, everybody has gotten to this point, the council is being asked for the money, everybody has signed the memorandums of understanding, and when the council votes the money, then ratification takes place. Is that correct?
Yes, it'll go back to the union to ratify the final contract.
Okay.
And the mayor and the union will sign it and the mayor will sign it.
Okay. Is everybody is everybody okay with that explanation?
I have a question. So
Please go ahead.
this is we've done this many times before.
Yes.
Okay. So, and why is there something that I missed about this? Okay, Ed is not nodding his head. I just wanted to make sure where Councilor Forgy was bringing this up, that this wasn't something different. I could see Director Liz nodding her head and Ed nodding his head, but I just wanted to make sure this was nothing different.
Nope.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. There is nothing different, but it is important, I think, that everybody understand this whole process at this particular point. Okay, are we ready to vote?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes, I can do a roll call vote for you if you would like.
Yes, very much. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Chris, I'm sorry, Chris, it's the mayor again. Bob has his hand up. He may have additional info.
Thank you. Chief?
So I have the union president on the phone and asked the question whether or not they ratified their contract, and they said yes, they wouldn't have ratified it before it went to city council. So
Okay, that's excellent. Thank you, Chief. I really appreciate that. Councilor Bottomley?
All right, a roll call vote. Councilor Forgy,
Yes.
Councilor DeSorger,
Yes.
Councilor Jarvis,
Yes.
Councilor Mayo is not here, and I will vote yes. So that is a unanimous yes from those present.
All right. So I'm thinking that I'm just trying to get back to my screen here and everything else. Let's just see here. I think this takes care of our motions that we have on the table for this evening. The next, please correct me if I'm wrong, because I can't see all of you. I would like to open this up now, if I could please, to public comment. It's an opportunity for the public to join us and talk to us about any issue that they might have in regard to any money items. And again, because I'm not in on the WebEx, I would just appreciate it, Councilor Bottomley, if you would look at the chat room and see if we've got anybody there who would like to talk to Ways and Means at this time.
I am not seeing anyone yet.
Okay.
Yep, I don't see anyone.
Okay, very good. Then I thank you very much, and we will move on to a discussion that is on the agenda and will continue to be on Ways and Means agenda for the next 11 months. I'm very happy. I think I know that both Assessors Gregary and Geisman are here to this evening. I didn't know if we have Harold here this evening.
Joseph Regary's here.
Thank you, Assessor Gregary.
So am I, Jim Geisman.
Thank you.
Jim Geisman's here as well.
Okay, and it's just the two of you for this evening, is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Okay, so we would like to, what had happened to us last year is that we had an 11th hour debate, as always. It's what usually happens in council when it comes time to set tax rates. And so it was suggested to us that this should be something we deal with throughout the whole year as we get closer and closer to the magic November when we have to set the tax rate. What I'm interested in doing this evening is I'd like to ask if you could lead us through. We did get paperwork. We did get some programming, some electronic information from Liz Gilman from the on how things are not only assessed but how tax rates are set. But I think that it would mean more if we had a conversation about how we go about setting a tax rate, and also all the different kinds. And this is mostly for the public to understand as well, and the different kinds of tax rates that are out there. And so I'm hoping, Assessor Gregary, that you could start this conversation off for us this evening, just by speaking to perhaps even your experience when it comes to setting a tax rate, and enlighten us as to where the beginning of this process starts.
Yeah, I can start the conversation. So in general, the assessor's office is responsible for evaluating properties and having very clean and clear record cards, accurate bedrooms, bathrooms, square feet, acreage, etc. Then, based on there's also some factors such as condition, and if there were any recent permits that can all kind of be put into the record card to determine some important facts of each property. Then the properties are clumped together by their classification, whether it's single family, multifamilies, industrial, commercial, land, etc. And based on the overall all the values, there's an algorithm that determines, how much a bedroom's worth and how much bathrooms are worth, etc., etc. And then the properties are given a value based on sales from not the current year but the previous fiscal year. So that's an important factor. And as So that's sort of how the valuation in a very simplistic way. Of course, somebody who a chief assessor could give you a more specific explanation on that because they've gone through the programs and works directly with this on a day-to-day basis, where a board member like myself or Jim, we meet twice a month for about an hour or 2 or 3 per month, and our responsibility on the board is overseeing the operations of the assessor's office, but not specifically the valuation of each property. So please excuse my lack of specifics as we continue this discussion. So basically, all the values are put into the system, so to speak, and then those values are sent to the Department of Revenue, where there's a range, whether we fit into we're higher, lower, or somewhere in the middle. And the Department of Revenue reviews these values and determines them to be accurate or inaccurate. And then once they make their determination, it's sent back to the council here, and the council votes on the tax rate based on those values. So that's sort of a brief explanation. I don't know if Jim Geisman or if anybody else wants to add to that explanation.
It's my understanding that the tax rate has a lot to do with the budget.
Yes.
And the assessed value. So the tax rate, I think, are the assessed values divided by the budget. But now that I say that, the total assessed values are, north of $1 billion, and their tax rate is only $23 a thousand. So, I'm sorry to mumble, but I do believe what I said is correct, in that you take the total valuation, divide that by the budget, and then that gives you the tax rate per thousand.
Okay. So I would ask if that's a great first step for us. I would ask that I would ask this question, Assessor Gary, have you ever been the assessor when we have had a year of split tax rate? Has that ever happened in your memory?
Greenfield has not adopted a split tax rate in the last 10 years that I've been an assessor, and I do not believe it's. I don't know if it's ever had a split tax rate.
Yeah. Okay.
At least in the last 20 to 30 years.
So what starts us thinking about whether or not we want to split a tax rate? What would be an indicator that we should consider a split tax rate?
I'm assuming you're asking members of the board, of the Ways and Means and the Council. The Board of Assessors has recommended not splitting the tax rate for the reasons that we went over in the last Ways and Means Commission in December. Happy to go over those again, but there were some other councilors that had other points of view that would be nice to hear and explore.
Okay. And that's what I hope that we can do with this, is explore it. I'll open it up to the committee at this particular time if there's any questions, or if you just want some background information on this whole process. This is a beginning for us. So if there are any questions this evening, let's put them out there, and we can all listen.
Counselor Forgy, I know you can't see us. May I speak?
Oh, yes, please. I'm sorry. Just go ahead and, yes, go ahead.
Okay.
Identify and speak.
All right, so Counselor DeSorga, so this, for our two assessors who are here, Jim Geisman and Joe Ruggieri. So I actually have several questions. You're happy to have all of our questions, I assume, right?
Not just the ones we can answer.
Not just the ones you can answer.
Please.
So, okay, so I actually looked this year. I think there were 108 municipalities that had split tax rate. The number last year. This year, there were more. I think it grew by like 8%. More municipalities went towards a split tax rate this year. And I personally think that the subject has come up here because of the tax burden that the homeowners pay. And so my first question was, my phone was actually ringing off the hook for 2 days. Pretty much, I was on the phone for pretty much 2 days straight after the tax bills came out. There were people that called me from Counselor Healy's precinct, and people from Counselor Bottomley's precinct, and then some from my own, whose tax bill increased astronomically. They were homeowners. On my street personally, everybody on my street, their evaluations went up by 10%. And there were a lot of sales in our neighborhood. I understand that. I wondered what formula you used to figure out, what logarithm was used in figuring out what percentage would go up for different places. Like somebody called me from, as I said, Counselor Healy's district, and their assessment had gone up by 18% without anything being done. Was it by neighborhood, and what happened with the businesses? I think many businesses this year had a very difficult time, except for liquor stores and pot shops. And I read these 5 businesses that did very well. Was anything that sold fitness equipment, if you were in the tutoring business, the liquor store, or sold pot, marijuana, and I forget what the other 2 businesses were. So how did the formula work? Did it work the same for everyone? Did everybody's go up by 10%? What happened with the businesses? That's it to begin with.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Thank you for the comment, Councilor DeSorga. Can you respond to that?
Jim, do you have an answer to that?
Well, I have a comment. First of all, the people who are responsible for the property taxes are the landlords. The businesses, of course, pay indirectly, and how the landlords choose to pass along the tax increases is pretty much up to them. So I think what we really need to do is focus not on the businesses, although the businesses are affected, but because we're talking about assessments, we ought to take a look at landlords and the properties that they own, or for that matter, they lease. So I think that, that's a very important distinction, because if you're setting a tax rate or you're doing assessments, the assessments are on the buildings, and the buildings are owned by, the landlords.
Good. Yep. If I could also just kind of go back
please.
to in Ginny's specific. That's interesting. You bring up how many municipalities were split. 108 plus. I think that's good information. I wonder how many municipalities are in Massachusetts in total. I have no idea.
351. 351.
351. Okay, good to know. Again, I think as we continue these conversations, maybe putting together like a fact sheet would be helpful. I mean, it would be good for everybody to kind of be able to compare apples to apples, so to speak. To answer your question specifically, there were increases. Single families increased much higher because there's I think that the sales, pretty much the algorithm is based on the sales. And again, not the sales from this year, which hate to warn you, they went up even more. 2021 fiscal year, it was huge. And I think they're going to go up even higher in 2022. Folks are buying houses in Greenfield. They're paying more than the market value. There's one or two houses come up on the market in a month and 10 buyers. But that's another conversation. I think to answer some of your specific questions about why some houses went up 8%, 10%, 18%, again, it has to do with the amount of square feet that house has, how many bedrooms that house has, other single families and that are increasing the prices, and then that increases the value for each. That increases the value for each a square foot for each bedroom, etc. Again, I don't think Jim or I are necessarily dealing with the algorithm specifically. Our chief assessor was dealing with them, and RRG was dealing with them. So when you really want to get into some of the specifics as to the, that's challenging for a board member, a part-time board member, to kind of hash out. But again, I think some of the things you bring up should be points of our conversations that we should analyze and figure out for our next group meeting. Hope that's a positive spin to this.
Could I
Thank
add
you.
something to what Joe was saying?
Go ahead, Jim.
I had a 2-hour conversation with Harold last week, and we went over, what is built into the software that spits out the valuations. And there are a number of factors. There's neighborhood, there's condition, square footage, acreage, land improvements, things like that. And it's cranked into a very complicated formula, which is all an algorithm is. And that is applied to a particular property. Now, the issue is a lot of these are pro forma, meaning, you're not going to argue with the square footage, you're not going to argue with the number of rooms, but there is some qualitative judgment in terms of the neighborhood, which the neighborhoods actually are set in groups. And there are judgment calls when it comes to property condition. Now, with respect to property condition in particular, there are guidelines that tell you what constitutes good, fair, poor, so forth. But a lot of that is, on the margin, those are judgment calls. So that can swing a property value around. Now, with respect to Councilor Sorga's question about her neighbors and the 10%, the assessment process, as Joe said, is based on previous sales from the year before. And if the properties have been selling like hotcakes, as condos are, then what happens is the sales price, which then indicates fair market value, will increase. And because properties are based on fair market value, their assessments will increase. I hope that's useful.
Very. And that certainly is what's been happening. I was just wondering though, because when we're talking, Councilor Forgy, do you mind if I continue?
Oh, that's perfectly fine. Go ahead.
Okay. So, I was just wondering relative to, your businesses, are you, and I know that actually this, you are part-time just like we are. And, but this would be something to, I guess, just to take back to Harold or to whatever, to, we don't have a chief assessor right now, but your businesses, are you doing those on income and expense? Is that how those are being determined?
Yeah, I spoke to Harold about that in particular. And, you know, I think he uses 3 different methods to figure out what the value is. And then, you know, based on those 3 methods, you know, the number is set. And, you know, that includes income, fair market value, and then there's one other that I can't bring to mind right
Comparative.
now. Pardon?
Comparative.
Yeah, well, isn't that covered in sales, the fair market value?
Well, there's the income approach. There's I guess the comparative approach, and then there's a combination of the two.
Okay, but you know, there's the income approach. I'm not sure we're very good at gathering that information, but you know, I mean that's what gets cranked into the valuation. Now, I think I don't know how one decides if there are 3 alternatives, as we were just discussing, how one picks the one that winds up dominating how you set that value. I don't know that. I don't know how that is done. So it could be a judgment call. It could be pro forma. I don't know. I don't have any information on that.
I also will say this. I think last year or the year before, we did have RRG did do a special. We asked for some funding, and RRG did do a special analysis of the commercial properties. Unfortunately, not much changed there. You know, there's obviously specifics that were brought up that we asked them to analyze. Again, you go to your board meeting and you get handed the information. You know, I guess as a board member, you take their professional opinion on this stuff. Prior to RRG doing this, we had an individual working in the assessor's office who did the similar work. Their information came back. Again, took their word that they went into the buildings, they analyzed the income. This is kind of the information that they spit back to us. So short of going to these buildings and analyzing their figures from a board member point of view, it's challenging. You know, it's hard to know that, you know, of the 200, how many properties there are commercial. I mean, I feel like there's over 1,000. It's challenging. I mean, there are some specifics. I'm sure you're thinking about the business that makes millions of dollars. I mean, that's kind of what we're talking about here, right? Well, how come they're making millions and their property value is only whatever it is? Again, from a board point of view, what do we do?
Assessor Ruggieri, is RRG still our vendor?
They are.
Okay, thank you.
I do have a question too, and I don't know if I'm going to state this correctly, but from what I'm hearing from people in the public, they just get really frustrated when you see a huge increase in your property or a systematic increase every year, which is some of that's expected. And then they don't see for a long time increase in business property, which might be justified. So I'm not placing any blame, but it creates a lot of frustration. And so we've been told in some of our past discussions we can't compare apples and oranges, but it feels like our way of comparing them might be the split tax rate if it feels like there's such a discrepancy that the community is getting really frustrated. That may be totally incorrect, but I just kind of wanted to express that or see what your thoughts might be on that.
You know, my thought, this is an interesting example. again, I'm sort of bringing some real estate world into this conversation, so I hope you don't mind. I'm trying to, I certainly keep the two businesses separate. Large commercial building came up for sale today in the Greenfield Industrial Park. I believe they used to clean carpets there, and it was really inexpensive. It came on for like, I want to say 398,000 for a large commercial building. Another example, the Recorder Building, large 11,000 square foot building. I believe that's been for sale for months for 400,000. So compare that to a 4-bedroom, 3-bathroom house with a 2-car garage. You could get 500,000 for that tomorrow. I mean, I get where you're coming from, and I understand where folks are coming from, but the residential properties are in demand where the commercial properties are not. Now, it's not all about comparisons and what market value is. There is the income approach. So it's a combined effort that RRG is doing to evaluate. Again, they can explain better. I'm not an appraiser. I'm a board member on the assessor's office, but I'm just trying to understand trying to help discuss the overall picture, I guess. And these are some of the observations I have from looking at things, not only from an assessor, but also from a person who watches the real estate market.
No, and thank you. I appreciate you being, it's good to have these honest conversations or try to get at what people are feeling too, even though that's not perhaps the best thing for a Ways and Means Committee meeting, but I appreciate your answering the question and trying to help us sort through all this.
Chris Jarvis, if I may, if people are done.
Yes, please. Go ahead.
Okay, thanks. John, were you done? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to step on you. You were, okay. Just a few thoughts of my own about the split tax. I want residents to realize that we hear about the taxes, but we also hear that there's no stores downtown. A split tax, and I know Jim doesn't like to say it, but I'll call them mom and pops. They're gonna, they're leasing a spot. They're not owning the building. So the landlord is gonna say, guess what? My taxes went up, so your lease is going up next year. And you may not be able to afford it, and you may not be in business, and I'm just gonna have to roll the dice to find somebody to go in there. That's the reality of a split tax and how it's going to affect our small little storefront owners down on Main Street in Greenfield. With that being said, I don't know if it's possible, maybe Jim or Joe can answer this question. Are other municipalities, and I thought I heard this someplace when we had this discussion, kind of like categorize their commercial properties in, okay, they make so much money, they have so many square feet, and they employ so many people. In other words, the big conglomerates of the world move into Greenfield, a big box moves into Greenfield or whatever. I thought I've heard someplace that municipalities tax them at a split tax rate. They have a ceiling set that's so many square feet. So it doesn't affect the mom and pops guy, but it does affect the big corporations that build these big buildings, and they make lots of money. And I'm not picking on the big box stores, but it just they would be the example of how to do it, in my opinion, of how to do a split tax rate and fairly do it and not cripple the small little store owner downtown on Main Street that we're looking to put into place to make Greenfield thrive again. Just food for thought. I don't know if it's something. And anyways, and one last thing, 8% of all the communities in Greenfield that added 28 more communities. So it's still less than a third of the communities have a split tax rate. And it would be curious to see what communities those are and what their income is and where they fit in demographics within the state. It may be, they may not even be the same demographics that Greenfield has. So that's where we have to be careful when we throw numbers out and when we throw statistics out, because statistics can say anything that you want them to say with the numbers that you put into them. So we have to be careful when we compare stuff like that. We need to know all the information. I guess that's my spill, and I see Liz leaning forward. So
No, I'm just going to piggyback on that. I think you've hit where your starting point is. What is what is our commercial composed of? What is the percentage? What types of businesses? That's your starting point of analysis. You know, if you want to start the conversation, let's look at our businesses that we do have and analyze them. And then from there, it sort of becomes pretty clear whether this will make a difference or not, you know? And there's just so much to this. I think you need to take it in little pieces, and that could be your starting point.
That's an excellent suggestion. I can't see anybody. Is there anybody else that wants to well, any of our Ways and Means folks? Is there anything else you'd like to say at this particular time?
Yeah, this is Councilor Healy. How's everybody doing tonight?
We're doing fine. Councilor Healy, this is a little awkward because I know you've received a permanent appointment to our committee.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to ask Council President, can he speak at this meeting?
I'm going to say no for tonight, and I apologize. The committee appointments are effective February 1st, but you will be able to ask at tomorrow night's meeting when we discuss these items. Or no, I'm sorry, this is not going to be on the agenda at tomorrow night's meeting, is it?
This will be an ongoing review, and Councilor Healy will be involved in this.
That's right. So, Councilor Healy, I would say if you want to send your question to Kathy Scott and also copy Tammy and myself, we can try and find an answer for you. I just want to make sure that we're being fair to all of the councilors and we're not violating open meeting law because we do have a quorum tonight.
That's perfect.
And this is going to be an ongoing discussion. There's going to be plenty of time for people to get information.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Councilor Healy, welcome. We're looking forward to working with you on Ways and Means. So thank you. Thank you for doing your homework. We appreciate that.
Thanks for having me.
So if we're kind of done with this opening conversation, I'm going to just talk about a couple of things that came forward. And I do think that what Liz posed to us is an excellent place to begin. But I also heard the following pieces, which seem to be extremely important to the conversation. First of all, we have this issue of landlord versus business, which I think is extremely important for us to understand. Second, we have condition of buildings, really also something we need to consider. And then the third part is the quantitative, I don't want to use the word judgments, but that logarithm or the quantitative opinions, let's put it that way, as to how to place everything into a system. With those 3 points and with the question that we have, and I appreciate all the questions counselors have brought up, but at this point, I think we should stop, and I think that if everybody's in agreement with this, and I think that we should get something back out to our assessors in regard to what will be on our next month's agenda, and then we can proceed with the conversation. This one went, I think, extremely well this evening. Is everyone in agreement with that? Any
Councilor Forgy, could I just ask one last thing where the assessors are here? And yes, I'm in agreement with you. I just wondered how their staffing was. And if
sure, that's a great question.
I did see what the mayor sent out to us today, and thank you, Mayor. So I just wondered if you were feeling like you had enough in general. and that was for actually, this is our source of revenue, so I guess that was for our assessors. If there was any staffing updates, and I see the mayor, Jim you can't see this, Counselor Forgy. Jim had his hand up before, and then the mayor had her hand up also, and I know you can't see that, so I'm just telling you that.
Okay, so let's go with Counselor Assessor Geisman, please.
How about I defer to the mayor? Because
Okay, that's perfectly fine. No
my
problem.
comments were not.
I'm happy to answer the question about staffing. You all got my memo today, so there is good news on the hiring front. Well, I say it's good news. We have applications, which is
That's
a
good.
giant step. It was a giant step from a couple of weeks ago. But that's good. But no, what I can tell you what Harold has done for the Assessor's Department, Harold Scheid of RRG. So 1 day a week on Mondays, one of his employees, whose name escapes me at the moment, which is funny because it was right on the tip of my tongue.
Is this
Daniel
not
Burris?
Mr. Burris. Burgess. Mr. Burgess. Mr. Burgess is the former assessor, chief assessor for the town of Amherst. He's retired. He now works for RRG. He is there on Mondays, full day, if I'm not mistaken, assisting assistant assessor Sandra Godoya. So Sandra has been promoted to assistant assessor in all of the work that needs to be done within the department going forward. On Thursdays, Jeff Reynolds, also still also part of RRG for a little while longer, if I'm not mistaken, is there on Thursdays doing the same thing. So they have increased staffing. It isn't just Sandra, and who's there Monday through Friday for 5 hours a day at her choice, by her choice, and for the time being. So that's the staffing situation in the chief assessor's department until such time as we hire a chief assessor and get a clerk and get it fully staffed.
Thank you, Mayor. For full disclosure, Dave Burgess was our chief assessor way back
Oh, right.
when.
That's some time ago. That's correct. I forgot that.
That's right.
What goes around comes around, time to time.
Yeah, he's lucky. Okay, so if we're all set with that conversation, I'm going to thank our assessors for making themselves available to us this evening. We really appreciate it. I think we're on the right step. It was a good first step and a good conversation. I'm looking forward to many more. So thank you again for joining us this evening. We really appreciate it.
Hey,
Thank you.
thank you all. Also, we will continue the open conversation as the year goes on. And
Okay,
we'll see
that
you next
sounds like
month.
a good plan. Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. I have other order of business that I'd like to address at this time. I'd like to call on Counselor Jarvis, who is a representative of the council to the Fire Department Building Committee, but he also happens to be a member of Ways and Means, which is really an added benefit to us. I know that Counselor Jarvis sent a memo out to General Counsel for our, for discussion at our meeting and everything else. But before we get to that meeting, Counselor Jarvis, would you bring us up to date, and specifically, would you elaborate a little bit on the financial pieces that are going on here with the fire department?
Yeah, I'll try my best.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
As we know, costs are being driven high again. We saw it happen last year. We've seen it happen again this year. So, with that being said, the mayor put out a memo today that stated it was like 35% an increase over cost from almost a year ago. Some of that problem is I can kind of just touch on a little bit of it. Per se, like the roof system. When we went out to bid to find a roof system for the building, what was happening was you would go to one manufacturer and they'd be able to come up with 90% of the structure for you for the roof system, but they couldn't guarantee you the finished product. So you would have to move on to a more expensive kind of system. And what's happening is you get to, I think it was like the third or fourth system, and it was, a higher cost. So that drives the cost up on us, because that manufacturer could supply 100% of the roof system, and the other ones couldn't. So you can't really take the chance that the cheaper roof system is going to be able to work for you because you don't know if you have 100% of the system. So you can't build a building if you don't have the guarantee that you're going to have the systems in place. So that's part of the financial. We have a special meeting coming up on Thursday that has been called. There's maybe some other ideas, some cost savings ideas. I just want I want the council to know that the ideas that are coming forward in no way, shape, or form are going to affect the operations of the fire department. The fire department will have everything it needs to be operational and functional as the fire department. So these cuts that you're going to see, or modifications, I shouldn't say cuts, modifications to the plans and the design, still make it a functional and suitable fire station for Greenfield. We got a very good committee. We have a very dedicated fire chief. Patrico and Ross are very familiar. Patrico is very familiar with fire stations. If you're going to have they are the people that you want. And Neil is right on top of it. If anybody remembers, Neil was in charge of our high school, which I think we're all fairly pleased with the high school. It's going to take some patience, and remember, we're still only in the design phase here. We're getting close to where we're going to be putting out for bid, but we're still in the design phase. Any questions that anybody has, I'll try to answer to the best of my ability, but I'm not going to step on the committee's toes if that is helpful.
Councilor Forgy, may I?
Yes, go ahead. Thank you.
So, thank you, Councilor Jarvis. I've watched the last couple of meetings on YouTube, and I appreciate your going out on a limb there and talking about it. It's difficult. I could see how we are over, and I just wanted to say, as a member of Ways and Means, I have concerns about that we're not. And I was delighted with the mayor and Liz Gilman. I was delighted that we were taking $1 million from ARPA and putting it towards this. It sounded like we could do that because of new rules and the interim final rule as far as revenue loss, et cetera. I'm not 100% sure on that, but that's what it sounded like. I was thrilled that happened. I personally want to make sure that we are building the fire department that we need for the future, and that I just wanted to say out loud, as a member of this committee, that I want to make sure that we're spending enough. I saw what we had to cut out of FF&E. I think it was 650 or 675,000. And I understand, and Liz if I can just call you Liz, you were great in the meeting. You were like, no, we can't put this out for bid. We can't put it out for bid unless we have that amount of money set aside. And what I wanted to say, as a person that represents other people and that reads comments and hears from other people, that you don't want to make a mistake in not building the fire station that we need for the future. The other towns nearby, other than Turner's Falls, they're volunteer fire departments. We did have to make a cut there was a size cut and then the outbuilding. And I thought, I just want to have that. You have to put it out to bid, but we're the people that would be approving something else if it was needed. That's my personal thought.
Yeah, if I could just clarify that on a little bit, Jeannie. There's nobody on this council that has a bigger stake in it than I do. These were my guys. I worked with these people for 30 years. I was their boss for 4 years. I was their supervisor for another 8 years of that. And these guys are my brothers and my sisters, and I will fight tooth and nail to the end for them. At the end of the day, nobody has their best concern than the chief of the department, and everything that gets done or improvised or changes made goes through the union. We have the guys are putting input into it. The chief is putting his input into it. And I just want people to know that we will have a fully functional fire department for today and for tomorrow. And for the future, I mean, at some point, believe it or not, Greenfield's going to have to look into a substation sometime down the road. And we've talked about this for 30 years. Since I was hired there, it was talked about. But, and I can't say this is going to be the build out for the next 30 years. As Greenfield grows, Greenfield's going to have to grow their infrastructure along with it. But this we're going to make sure that the guys' needs are cared for. And there's a bunch of good people looking over these folks to make sure they get what they need. And I just want people to realize that you hear a lot out there on Facebook. You see a lot of it on Facebook. I am telling you from my personal experience. I got off the phone with the chief today. We've had some discussions, which I'm not going to disclose. They'll come out on Thursday, or at the next meeting, at the special meeting. So tune in then. It's a growing evolution here until we reach when we get to our final product and we're going to put it out to bid. So it's going to take some patience. And I just want people to understand that we have the best in mind for our firefighters and our community, because that's the building that protects a lot of people everybody in this community, either when they're visiting this community or they're living in this community. So we want the best for the community and the firefighters. So we will make sure that they have it. I understand. I'm glad that everybody has concerns. Rest assured, we will plug through.
Thank you, Councillor Jarvis. I appreciate it. I'm sorry I didn't spring that. I kind of sprung that on you, didn't I? I do apologize for that. But I think that because we are in the process of going out to bid and we've recognized that there are increases in prices that no one can actually believe right now, we want to be a participant. I'm going to echo what everybody else has said this evening. We do really want to see the best fire department that we can possibly afford to get built, and we do want to be partners in all of this. The Finance Committee, I'm going to speak for the Finance Committee. I hope I'm not speaking out of turn, but I think we want to be good partners in this. So thank you for your comments. I appreciate that very much. If there is no other business this evening, are we all...
May I ask a question of Director Gilman?
Yes, go ahead. Yes, Councilor.
So, that there was the lost revenue. Was $1 million the top that we could have given, or was it $1.5 million?
Actually, the final rule just came out
Mhm.
for that. They are letting every city and town utilize 10 million. Now we don't have 10 million, but
Read
that's
that.
like a standard amount you may use. So a matter of balancing some of the needs, and the mayor has been doing that. You know, we've been talking about broadband. We've been talking, you know, there's a lot of things going on. So I would have the mayor speak to her thoughts on that if you want. But yes, the mayor did commit an awful lot for the fire station.
Councilor DeSorga, are you all set?
No, I just wondered if we could have committed more. Was it up to $1.5 million? We put in $1 million. Could it have been $1.5 million? According to the rules.
Mayor, that would be a question for you, I think, at this point. Oh, is the mayor on?
I don't believe so. But this is a question that, I think this is a question that could be submitted via email and hopefully answered in time for tomorrow's meeting.
Thank you.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. Is everybody all set? Great. I will just say that our next meeting is February 15th, 2022, 5:30. It does say John's on Community Center, 35 Pleasant Street, or via WebEx if required. May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved, DeSorga.
Second, Jarvis.
I beat you,
Motion
Ed.
was made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. And the meeting is adjourned at 6:42 p.m. Thank you for your hard work.